Breaking news reaching us now. The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has been arrested, extradited to Nigeria, and is right now being arraigned at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Kanu is facing charges bordering on treasonable felony instituted against him at the Federal High Court in Abuja in response to the years of campaign for the independent Republic of Biafra through IPOB. He was granted bail in April 2017 for health reasons, but skipped bail after flouting some of the conditions given to him by the court. He has also been on the run since then after soldiers raided his father's residence in Abia State. IPOB was later declared a terrorist group by the court after the Southeast governors prescribed it.
This is a live feed coming to us in Abuja, where Nnamdi Kanu has been arraigned at the Federal High Court on charges bordering on treason.
I imagine we'll be hearing more of the story as it unfolds. First would be how they managed to get hold of him. Well, I guess they said he was extradited, so
yes,
it would mean that they had the cooperation of the foreign body that was able to extradite him.
Yes, and more importantly, he was actually arraigned in court in 2017 and granted bail. And we know that he actually skipped bail. He was granted bail, first of all, on medical grounds. Then he skipped bail. And ever since then, he's been on the run in the eyes of the law.
I imagine the officials were proceeding covertly, and which is why it's suddenly coming to the fore, almost like a surprise news, because he seemed to be out of the reach of the security agents for a period and was conducting his affairs from where he was, issuing statements and so forth. But now we find the next we hear of him, he's now in Abuja, which will come as a surprise to many.
Yes, it is, because for so many that don't know him, of course, he is Nnamdi Kanu. He is the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra.
Self-appointed.
Okay, self-appointed. Okay, if you want to put it that way, and he's also a British citizen, certainly. And so he had actually jumped bail, and this was back in 2017, and ever since then, he's made appearances here and there, but today he's in the Federal High Court in Abuja, where he's been arraigned. We're seeing live pictures from that Federal High Court where he's been arraigned on charges bordering on treason.
Yes, treasonable felony, they say, the charges against him. And so it remains to be seen how long this process will take, what sort of evidence they will be calling up, who the witnesses will be in this case, and how much access the media will be given, because a lot of people will be interested in the proceedings, and we would hope it would be transparent.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping, because the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, SAN, who made this disclosure to journalists, revealed that Kanu was arrested and brought back to Nigeria on Sunday. So he's been in the country for the last 2 days, and today he's been arraigned for the court.
You can see lots of media officials waiting patiently, maybe expecting to get a glimpse of Nnamdi Kanu at some point or the other, and maybe to even hear from his lawyers. I imagine he'll be represented by legal personnel at some point. So there's a lot that needs to be filled in. We can see them rushing, so perhaps we're about to see the emergence of Nnamdi Kanu even as we observe this live feed at the Abuja High Court.
The pictures you're seeing on your screen is a live feed from the Federal High Court in Abuja, where the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has been arrested, extradited to Nigeria, and is right now being arraigned at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Kanu is facing charges bordering on treasonable felony instituted against him at the Federal High Court in Abuja in response to years of campaign for the independent Republic of Biafra through IPOB. He was granted bail in April of 2017 for health reasons, but skipped bail after flouting some of the conditions given to him by the court. He has also been on the run since then after soldiers raided his father's residence in Abia State. IPOB was later declared a terrorist group by the court after the Southeast governors prescribed it.
Again, breaking news just reaching us. The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has been arrested, extradited to Nigeria, and is right now being arraigned at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Kanu is facing charges bordering on treasonable felony instituted against him at the Federal High Court in Abuja in response to years of campaign for the Independent Republic of Biafra through IPOB. He was granted bail in April 2017 for health reasons, but skipped bail after flouting some of the conditions given to him by the court. He has also been on the run since then after soldiers raided his father's residence in Abia State. IPOB was later declared a terrorist group by the court after the Southeast governors prescribed it.
All right, we also brought you the news that the federal government had actually arrested the leader and the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami SAN, who made a disclosure to journalists today, revealed that Nnamdi Kanu was arrested and brought back to Nigeria on Sunday.
Interesting, and we're waiting to see if he'll make an emergence from the court, but we know he's currently being arraigned at the Abuja High Court. Yeah.
All right, those are the pictures of him when he was arrested and brought into Nigeria on Sunday. Let's say that Nnamdi Kanu actually founded the indigenous people of Biafra in 2014, and according to him, the main aim of IPOB was to create an independent state for the people of all eastern region of Nigeria through an independent referendum.
Okay, well, we're told that the arrest followed a collaborative effort between security agencies in Nigeria and the Interpol. So clearly it's been something that's been in the pipelines for some time.
And Nnamdi Kanu has always had clashes with the law. On the 18th of October in 2015, it was reported that Kanu had been arrested in Lagos State by Nigeria's secret police, the DSS. Kanu had told his solicitor on the 14th of October 2015 that he was arrested by agents of the federal government in his hotel in Lagos State. The solicitor, of course, in the press briefing said that between the 14th and 17th of 2015, that his clients' whereabouts were unknown until the 18th of 2015, when the press media broke the news of the arrest by the DSS in Abuja.
Yes, and he's a figure who seems to have had frequent clashes with the Southeast governors. He called them hypocrites for disowning IPOB and not, basically pledging some form of allegiance. So he's often had hard words for the Southeast governors as regards their own stance towards the federal government.
All right, we have our reporter on ground, Rachel Abioye, who is there at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Rachel, can you give us a situation report of what's been transpiring at the Federal High Court?
Okay, so we were actually in the premises and we heard it was going to come out, but we were getting some kind of rumors that they might take him through another door. So we were running around to see where they want to take him through. And then all of a sudden, we saw the vehicle outside the fence going. So we ran out to try to follow, but they're gone. Okay. But we're outside the premises now.
Okay, Rachel, would you have us believe that Nnamdi Kanu, whom we were told was being arraigned, has left the premises?
Yeah, according to what we heard, he was arraigned, but they were kind of hiding him from, meeting the press. So yeah, they took him out. We've been running around, took him out.
Any sign of his legal representatives, anyone at all who has any connection to Nnamdi Kanu?
For now, we've not seen any because the whole place is crowded, so we've not been able to speak with anyone.
How about the representatives from the federal government?
Yeah, we might have someone to speak with.
Rachel, once again, I'm excited. How about the representatives from the federal government? Have you spoken with any of them?
Okay. We've not spoken with any yet. Yeah. But we'll do that shortly.
When did you and how did you get wind of the fact that he was being arraigned? Because there seemed to be quite a mob of media officials in the courtroom.
Sorry, please come again.
When did you and how did you get wind of the fact that he was being arraigned? Because there seems to have been a mob standing ready at the courtroom from the visuals we had.
Okay, we got the information from a news source, a credible news source, that he's been arraigned, and police gave us the information as well. And also the Minister of Justice. So we got a notification that he's been arraigned, the Minister of Justice and a credible news source.
In cases such as this, what do you feel would be the procedure? What is to be anticipated in the days and maybe weeks to come regarding this particular arrest?
What?
Did you hear me, Rachel?
What you say? Please come again.
In cases such as this...
No, I can't hear you clearly. Please come again.
Okay. If you can hear me, I'll take that question again. In cases such as this, what is to be anticipated in terms of the schedule? What can the public expect to hear regarding a case such as this?
Yes, for now, for the fact that we got the information and for the fact that we have evidences that we've seen him and that he's actually arrested and arraigned, then we think there's no issue. Shortly, you can even have it today. We don't know yet, but we're hoping that we're going to, get him on camera to even speak with us if possible.
Okay.
All right, many thanks to you, Rachel.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, many thanks to you. We'll still be catching up with you as the story develops.
Hello.
And if you're just joining us, we're actually just bringing you breaking news that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has been arrested, extradited to Nigeria, and he's right now being arraigned, or he was arraigned at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Nnamdi Kanu is facing charges bordering on treasonable felony instituted against him at the Federal High Court in Abuja in response to years of campaign for the independent Republic of Biafra through IPOB. He was granted bail in April of 2017 for health reasons, but skipped bail after flouting some of the conditions given to him by the court. He has also been on the run since then after soldiers raided his father's residence in Abia State. IPOB was later declared a terrorist group by the court after the Southeast governors prescribed it.
Yes, and we know that Justice Binta Nyako, who granted him bail on the ground of his ill health, later revoked that bail on March 28, 2019, and issued a bench warrant for his
arrest and extradition.
Leader of proscribed IPOB was sometimes back arrested precisely on the 14th day of October 2015 on 11-count charge bordering on terrorism, treasonable felony, managing an unlawful society, publication of defamatory matters, illegal possession of firearms, and improper importation of goods, among others. You may also recall that a judge at the Federal High Court, Abuja, on the 28th March 2019, revoked Kanu's bail that was granted him on health grounds and issued a bench warrant for his arrest on the same date over his failure to appear in court for hearing. He has, often jumping bail, been accused of engaging in subversive activities that include inciting violence through television, radio, and online broadcast against the Nigerian state and institutions. Kanu was also accused of instigating violence, especially in the southeastern Nigeria, that resulted in the loss of lives and property of civilians, military, paramilitary, police force, and destruction of civil institutions and symbols of civil authorities. Self-acclaimed leader of the proscribed secessionist indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has, for your information, been intercepted through the collaborative efforts of the Nigerian intelligence and security services. He has been brought back to Nigeria in order to continue facing trial after disappearing while on bail regarding 11-count charge against him. Recent steps taken by the federal government saw to the interception of the fugitive Kanu on Sunday, the 27th day of June 2021. Nnamdi Nnamdi Kanu'S Kanu was born on the 25th September 1967 at Afrauku, Abia State, Nigeria, and indeed a holder of Nigerian passport number AO A05136-827, first issued on the 17th October 2013 at Festac, Lagos. For your information, distinguished members of the press, Kanu is as at now been produced before Federal High Court in continuation of hearing of his case, in respect of which he has evaded and indeed jumped bail. Thank you very much, distinguished members of the press, for your participation. Thank you.
So that's the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, there briefing the press.
If he can be free of all these charges, he has added another charge,
By
jumping bail. So even if he's free of all that,
they will hold him on
he's
on
not
that.
likely. He's likely to be sanctioned by the court for jumping bail. And also, don't forget, this will be some relief to persons who stood surety for him, including Senator Yinaya Abaribe,
Yes.
who has been hounded for not producing Nnamdi Kanu, and he had to also answer at every point that question, where is Nnamdi Kanu? And I'm sure he will be a relieved man too, that at least he is free, haven't done, because when one of the conditions given for his bail then was a 7th senator, and he stepped forward as a senator from the southeast to stand surety for him, but apparently he jumped bail after his father disappeared. His father's
House was ransacked.
house, his palace, because his father is a traditional ruler in Afarauku, was attacked by soldiers, and he felt his life was also threatened. And,
I was going to
then-
bring that up to say,
Yes.
could there be some argument that he only fled due to that? What he feels was maybe an oppressive, advancement of that case against him.
Well, in the eyes of the courts where he has jumped bail, I'm not sure that is going to be tenable, because if your life is under threat, the court is there for you to approach for some kind of protection also. So that is not likely. Then, more significantly, is that since he jumped bail and has been outside the country, he has not kept quiet. He has been firing on all cylinders, as sports reporters will say, and of course, recording.
To an application by the federal government lawyer, Shuaibu Labaran. And Kanu was said to have been intercepted by the joint security operatives of the government. According to the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, who made the disclosure in a joint press conference briefing with the DSS and the police, said that Kanu was arrested on Sunday, the 27th of June 2021. However, the briefing was silent on where he was arrested. And ruling on the request for remand in the custody of the DSS, Justice Yanko held that the prosecution should inform Kanu's lawyers of his rearrest and remand in the custody of the DSS. The judge subsequently adjourned till the 26th of July for the continuation of the trial. Kanu was granted bail back in 2017 and subsequently jumped bail and was declared wanted by the government. Apart from jumping bail, the federal government is also holding Kanu responsible for various acts of violence recently in the southeast.
So back to the issue of how transparent this trial will be. We saw our reporter chasing just to get a visual on him, and they were told, or the impression she gave was that he was smuggled out of the court. But you were saying that you expect the reporters to have access to enough information on this program, on this.
Yes, I think because this is the first time it's being rearranged, and if you see from that judgment we just read, not much was done than to just restate that he's back to continue the case, and he has been is going to be in the custody, not of the Correctional Service, but of the Department of State Security. And of course, the way they operate, they had to spirit him out of the venue. Before, I'm sure they don't want him to also have the opportunity to start making statements before the actual trial. But I'm sure we'll hear more from him when the trial begins. But it has to be open court. Journalists must have access to the court. It's not a military tribunal, and I'm sure his lawyers will be there to defend him, and it's going to be some legal fireworks also.
All right. I want to say many thanks to you, Emmanuel Afeni, RI's news analyst, for your time here on Newsday.
How to say will be best expressed in English than Pidgin, so I must apologize for that, because legal terms will be occurring here a lot today. Yes, I met him yesterday for almost 3 hours at the headquarters of the DSS in Abuja, and we had quite an interaction, private interaction initially, and later on he was interviewed by 3 DSS officers in my presence. I wanted to call it an interrogation, but they said no, it's an interview, during which they asked him routine questions, but most of the questions centered on his being the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra and the activities of that organization. So he answered the questions in a relaxed atmosphere, with bearing in mind his constitutional rights not to incriminate himself. Of course, some of the questions had background information that he considered incomplete, and he told the officers that he was not able to answer some of those questions because the information that they supplied to him was incomplete. So the interview went without incident, and at some point it was brought to a close. I think maybe there's going to be another interview to be scheduled, but I have not been informed of that yet.
And you go there in that other interview, you go there with your client, Nnamdi Kanu, for those other interviews will go happen after today.
Will you go?
You go there with your client?
Yes, I go there with her. Normally, his right to counsel has attached. So any further interview, whether it's called interview or interrogation, any interaction on the matter as to what he did or what he didn't do or the allegations can never occur without presence of counsel. If he does, he'll be tempted and he'll be inadmissible in court. Okay,
so before we talk more about this, you talk, say, aside from the interview your client Nnamdi Kanu gets with the DSS officers, you also get private interaction with him. Yes. Before we go into details on that, in as much as you can share with us, you will describe to us when you see Nnamdi Kanu, how he be, what's in his state of mind?
Well, his state of mind wasn't as sound as it should be. You know, if you listen to his broadcast, you would know that he's a historian. But when I was talking with him, he had trouble recalling the actual date he was abducted. It surprised me. So to jog his memory, I asked him how many nights he spent in Abuja before he was brought to court. He told me 2 nights. So he was brought to court on Tuesday, the 29th June. So we figured he must have been brought into the country on Sunday, the 27th. So when I mentioned that date, he said, sure, that's the date. But I took particular note of that. I also noticed that he had a visible injury on his right wrist. I asked him what it was. He said it was where they had chained him, put the chain on him, and chained him to the concrete floor in Nairobi, Kenya. and he has disappearing injury on the left wrist and an injury right here at the nape of the neck. So he related to me. I asked him what happened, and what happened, much of it is now public knowledge. So what I'm doing is by way of adumbration, supplying more information.
You could tell us more about what's happened, because you talk about, you just mentioned Kenya, and Kenyan government don't come out to talk, say they no arrest Nnamdi Kanu for Kenya. So tell us more about this.
What happened is this. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu entered Kenya, I believe, on a certain date, right around April this year. I'm not sure. I'm trying to establish the actual date of entry. But I have documentation from a Kenyan hospital that placed him in Kenya as of 14th April this year, 14th May. So he entered Kenya.
And what did they do for Kenya hospital?
He went there because he had issues with his heart. He felt he wasn't well. So he went there, he was examined, and the diagnosis was hypertension and heart murmur. They made prescriptions for him, and my examination of the medical report indicated medications for heart and controlling blood pressure. So apparently he entered Kenya before the 14th May this year. So he had settled in at a location in Nairobi, a temporary location, and he entered with his passport. The biographic page of his passport was made available to me as of counsel, and the page bearing the stamp, the immigration stamp that admitted him to Kenya, was also made available to me. So I had irrebuttable evidence, independent of what he was going to tell me, that placed him in Kenya before the extraordinary rendition. So when that day, on the fateful day, that was on I believe on the 19th, yes, not believe, certain, 100%, he drove himself to the airport from his temporary location in Kenya. He drove to Jomo Kenyatta International and went into the garage, the underground garage, to pick up a visitor flying in from outside. Okay, that is not necessary for this discussion, the identity or whatever. So the moment he got into the parking lot, the garage, a group of several men well armed to the teeth.
And this now waiting Nnamdi Kanu tell you about what you remember of waiting happened before they bring him to Nigeria.
This is what he told me, and his recollection of this was very, very lucid and clear.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so now they swooped on him. They gathered and grabbed him, okay, in a very physical, rough way, and he raised the lamp. Luckily for him, there were a few people that were there, and the people wanted to intervene in terms of really very aggressive intervention, because to them, I asked him why they would consider making an aggressive intervention when something that seemed law enforcement was happening. He said perhaps they didn't believe it was normal. So the people that were abducting him told everybody to stay clear, that this person you're looking at is a Nigerian terrorist who assists the Al-Shabaab terrorists in Kenya. And apparently most of the people that wanted to intervene, the Good Samaritans, are Kenyans. And you know, Al-Shabaab has quite an extensive operation in Kenya, just like we have the Boko Haram here. So perhaps there's this emotional thing about it that they shouldn't be saving anybody that is linked to Al-Shabaab. He said in that moment of indecision and maybe reluctance to further intervene, they grabbed him, put him in their car, and left, and took him to a private residence, not an official detention facility, where they chained him to the floor for most of the 8 days he spent there, and they really tortured him, thinking he was Al-Shabaab. So he kept telling them he wasn't Al-Shabaab. He had nothing to do with Al-Shabaab. He kept telling them who he was.
Who be these people?
Well, I asked him who they are. He told me they are Kenyan security officials. I asked him why. He said the insignia, the courage, that he had arrived Kenya, so he had a bit knowledge of the terrain and how the law enforcement functions and the sort of things they wear, how, you know, that they were brazen with weapons openly. It couldn't have been private parties or some rogue agents doing that. He told me that the thing has it's, 100% degree of officialdom to it. So they took him to that location and they were torturing him, and I'm sorry to say they really beat him a lot. So, but at some point when he was trying to explain himself, he told me he was blindfolded most of the time, chained to the floor, bare floor. And he told me that it looks like one of them decided to be a little bit intellectual about the whole thing and went out and maybe got some information, came back and said, hey, listen, he's not what we think he is. They lied to us. And that was when they disclosed to him that, listen, the real purpose of grabbing you was at the behest of the Nigerian government. Nigerian government hired us to grab you, to abduct you with that information that you are linked to Al-Shabaab. He said, okay, you gotta let me go. He said, no, we are committed already. We have to hand you over.
But the Kenyan government don't clearly talk, say they don't get hand for this, and they don't arrest Nnamdi Kanu for the ground. And also the federal government never come out to talk anything about where your client, where they arrest your client from.
Okay. Anyway, I have, you see, it's not going to be a question of he said, she said. I'm a lawyer. I operate on the basis of independent and credible evidence. The Kenyan High Commissioner might have sounded credible to the general public, but the information available to me can impeach every single word she uttered, including the denial that came from the home government. I have immigration stamp placing Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya just 2 months before his abduction. I have medical evidence placing him at a Kenyan hospital. Okay? And I have his own word. He's a man of sound mind. Then, fourthly, after the Guardian newspaper UK broke the news that Nnamdi Kanu's British passport was still in Kenya, the following day, Kenyan authorities raided that very location for the first time, from where he took off to the airport. So he connected the dots.
And what's in your client, Nnamdi Kanu, tell you about how they move him from Kenya, as you talk, say he tell you, to Nigeria?
Yes. You see, he said on the fateful day, that was the 27th on Sunday, 27 June, they drove him in a car to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, blindfolded him, and bundled him inside a private jet, like a Learjet. I asked him if it's a Boeing 777, so whatever, or Airbus, the big ships. He said no, it's a normal private jet that you often would see some people owning private jet, that kind of size. And he was the lone passenger in that jet, in that plane, and he didn't clear immigration. They drove him straight, on the tarmac, straight to the plane, and very close to the plane, and put him inside the plane with Nigerian security officials, and left about 12 noon in the afternoon, and landed Nigeria same day in the evening, around something after 4 or to 5.
You talk about the fact, say, you don't see your client. You talk about his physical and mental state. Tell us more about his mental state. You talk, say, it seemed to be like, say, he seemed to forget things.
No, that's not what I mean. What I meant is this, that he appears like somebody who has been mentally traumatized. So he's unwilling to talk about one or two things until you prompt him. Like when I prompted him about the date, that's the conclusion I drew. How many nights he spent in Abuja. No, he's not. He's traumatized. He has trauma. He has mental trauma and physical trauma. And the trauma continues because the first night he spent in Nigeria, he told me, in that one he did in the presence of DSS officers, when they asked him if he has concerns, certain concerns, he said yes. The first night he was brought to the facility, they put him in a room with a small old mattress and left a very bright light on throughout the night. So he had sleep deprivation of the extreme order. It was the following day, perhaps maybe someone decided it shouldn't be this way, so they put him in a better place. So the trauma continues in terms of his being held incommunicado. He's not allowed to have contact, like you will expect of a detention facility, except with his visitors. And up to this moment, his visitors have only been lawyers.
So how long it take for them to allow you and your other lawyers?
Well, I've been trying to see him since Friday. I thought I was going to succeed on Tuesday. I didn't. So eventually I succeeded yesterday. So when I raised a bit of mild objection, the officers told me that it was a matter of inconvenience for them.
No contact with family members?
Not yet. I made requests for that yesterday.
Make we talk about the trial where we begin again on the 26th of July. Yes. How prepared Nnamdi for that trial?
Well, we are, but there's not going to be any trial. There's going to be trial within trial. What happened to Nnamdi Kanu is, by legal definition, worldwide legal definition, what is called extraordinary rendition. It's a state crime. It's a crime by the state. If a private individual abducts or violently and illegally seizes another individual, it's called kidnapping, and in some jurisdictions, it's a capital offense. When state does it, it's called extraordinary rendition. That's what happened. So if you rendered or you renditioned a fugitive or a suspect, you have lost jurisdiction to try that suspect because you committed an international crime. You broke your own laws. You broke the laws of the third state from which territory you renditioned that individual. And you broke the laws of the second state of nationality of that individual. That is what is playing out here, because we have three divergent but also compliant jurisdictions. The three jurisdictions here, Nigeria, Kenya, and UK, their laws prohibit extraordinary rendition. The only legal pathway to grabbing a suspect from one jurisdiction to another for for UK, for Kenya and Nigeria is through extradition. It has a process. Nigeria has an Extradition Act, which you can find at the Laws of Federation of Nigeria, Chapter E25. Kenya has its own. It's called Extradition Commonwealth Countries Act. Britain has its own. The three laws are very similar. So there's no conflict of law here. The only conflict of law is that Nigeria chose to break its own law, Kenyan law and British law. So that conflict will be ventilated in court to see whether there is jurisdiction to try him for any offense, or whether the proper thing to do is it not to return him to the state that he was, despite the bench warrant that was issued by the Federal High Court here. The bench warrant is not a competent legal document to go into a foreign country and illegally grab a suspect. It's not. It should have become one if Nigerian authorities had submitted the process to extradition proceedings in Kenya and succeeded in the final analysis in getting a warrant or order of extradition. It would have been okay. So the first issue before the court here is not to try Nnamdi for any criminal offense, but to have a trial within trial, because extradition is, of course, is an act of forcible abduction, so it's considered torture under the Torture Convention. And Britain has case authorities where it has asserted extraterritorial jurisdiction, what is otherwise known as universal jurisdiction, to indict and try and imprison those that are engaged in such conduct. And if Nigeria was lucky that this didn't occur on British soil, if it did, we would have had a throwback to 1984 when Nigeria tried it and failed. This one they failed because it was on British soil. They created a man named Nnamdi Kanu'S, and they were caught at the airport. It was the same thing. The only thing that differs Diko from Nnamdi Kanu is that Kanu wasn't created, and he was kidnapped in a third state. Diko was kidnapped, created. At the airport, British authorities got suspicious and the whole thing unraveled. 17 men were arrested, 4 were in prison for between 6 to 8 years, and deported when they were out of jail. Britain broke diplomatic relations with Nigeria for 2 years. They expelled the Nigerian ambassador, the High Commissioner, and some diplomatic staff found complicit in that grievous crime. And it was a whole lot of noise internationally. And Nigeria's subsequent request, formal request, meritorious request for extradition of Diko and the other Nigerians wanted who were in UK, were summarily denied by Britain. So there are definitely, for sure, countervailing measures when a nation tries to commit such a grievous crime just because they want to have a suspect before their judicial authorities. There are things that the country should have done right, but he decided not to do it.
Okay, so they've been calls don't come from different quarters, from different groups, say the federal government must handle this case on a fair note, that the trial must happen, Nnamdi Kanu trial must happen on a fair note. Does this make you optimistic?
Fair trial?
That Nnamdi Kanu must have a fair trial?
You see, it's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction to say that a jurisdiction that broke the laws of 3 countries and the international law, that's the 4th component, to bring a suspect before that jurisdiction should be expected to give fair trial to such individual. But like I said, we haven't even gotten to that bridge yet. When we get to the bridge of whether he's going to get fair trial or not, we are going to ventilate it. The bridge we have to cross first is the bridge of testing the impact of the jurisdiction of Nigeria to try Nnamdi Kanu for any criminal offenses stemming from the extraordinary rendition. That's where we are.
So finally, pretty weighty allegations and accusations against your client. And some people who I don't talk say, now all these things they will bring up during the trial. Talk about his utterances for Radio Biafra, talk about him asking people to take up arms and commit some atrocities, like they said. All this will come up during the trial, and they say the federal government gets very big evidence, weighty evidence against Nnamdi Kanu. Waiting they go through your client's mind, if they think about the trial, does it make him worried?
Nnamdi Kanu, especially during his interview with the DSS officers, he explained to them, they asked a question similar to this. He said, what I set out to do is protected under the laws of Federation of Nigeria and under international law, which is self-determination. And I set out to do it through peaceful means of referendum. I was singing referendum like a song. Now, how can you say I committed a crime for pushing something, for holding a protected political opinion? I can give you the quotation. It's at cap A9, Laws of Federation of Nigeria, Article 20 and Article 1. It's Nigerian law. But I'm wondering if maybe the Attorney General is not yet aware of it, or it hasn't been brought to his attention. So he has what lawyers call an affirmative defense, that he hasn't committed any offense by virtue of Section 36, subsection 12 of Nigerian Constitution, which stated clearly that no Nigerian can be tried and convicted for any offense that is not written down in a written law. Self-determination, asking for self-determination or referendum is not an offense. Even asking to secede is not an offense. It's not an offense to ask to secede, because they frame the charge in terms of you, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, committed an offense because you ask that you said you are going to secede. So that question really is self-explanatory from the way he put it. So in legalese, he has no case to answer on that. It's a legal issue. But again, we have the other part of it. He who asserts must prove. In criminal law, we say you cannot convict any man unless you prove your case beyond reasonable doubt. If federal government feels it has quantum evidence to convict him, it's their case. The burden is on them to do that. After they have done that, we now mount our defense.
Barrister Aloy Ejimako, yes. Thank you for your time with us.
It's my pleasure having you. Thank you.
Family members, friends, and sympathizers of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the outlawed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, were left deeply disappointed on Monday when the Department of State Services, DSS, failed to produce Kanu for the resumption of his trial at the Federal High Court, Abuja. Despite the protest by Kanu's counsel, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, who accused the DSS of refusing to produce the IPOB leader and preventing his lawyers and family members from seeing him, the trial judge, Justice Binta Nyako, insisted that the case could not proceed in the absence of the defendant. The judge adjourned the case to October 21, noting that the annual vacation of judges of the court had commenced. According to her, the court will only reconvene at an earlier date if the prosecution obtained a fiat from the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court for the trial to go on during the court vacation. To discuss what actually transpired in the court on Monday and why the media was prevented from showing the proceedings as they unfolded, we're now being joined from our Abuja studio by counsel to the IPOB leader, Ifeanyi Ejiofor. Good morning, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, and welcome to the Morning Show.
Good morning, Mr. The vacation commenced on 26th. This was brought into court on 26th for trial, for commencement of trial. So, and also it's more so when the DSS has denied us access to him few days before the day for the trial of the case of commencement of trial. We made an effort to see him trial last week before the trial on Monday. They never allow us to see him, and it's fundamental that in a criminal proceedings of this nature, we should see, assuming the trial was supposed to go on Monday, it now means that we have no pre-trial conference discussion with our client before that Monday. So we are denied access to see him. And so this is what we are talking about. That was why we filed an application to get him transferred to prison custody. So where we have unrestricted access to him to apply for trial. So, and I want to put it on record today that application, though the court was insistent about getting that application because of the fact that because he said we're on vacation, but that application will be heard at next adjourned date. when had, and the court must positively consider the application because we must have a forum to see him, interview him, and also before the trial commences. So it's fundamental that that application is considered in the positive to allow us to have access to him. Though another was made on the 26th of July, court made another based on my application, allowing us access access to him Mondays and Thursdays. And I'm in the hope that BSS will also obey these orders. So what happened in court on 26th of July, in summary, is not strange to us. It's very, very conversant with this political trial. We are used to it in 2015. We experienced it. If we experience a situation whereby Nnamdi Kanu, when we be brought to court, we look as if the president is being brought to court. A person has committed no offense unto law. So we are very familiar. But unfortunately, the treatment was extended to the media and also the lawyers who were locked up from the courtroom. So it's unfortunate. And the lawyers, the courtroom is only the jurisdiction where the lawyers belongs to. I was surprised they were locked up. It took my intervention to ensure that many of them were admitted. Because when I came in, I was astonished in the first place that lawyers were locked out from courtroom. So I have to intervene to ensure that some were allowed in. So.
Okay, if I we'll take a short break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching the morning show here on the Rise News channel. Well, the counsel of the IPOB leader, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, is still with us from our Abuja studios, the IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu. Thank you so much for staying with us, Mr. Ejiofor. Let's talk about that prayer that was denied by the court, the prayer to have him transferred to a correctional center. Is that solely because you're unable to access him to provide better counsel? Or are there other reasons why you wanted him transferred to a correctional center?
You see, the point is that when a person is charged with criminal offense and the offenses of such a nature my client is charged with, he should be allowed access to his lawyers, also giving adequate time and facility to defend them. So, and we didn't think that the DSS is a convenient forum for him to be detained. So, and it is more so when DSS made it known to us that they've concluded interview. They call it investigation. So I don't know what is still in there. So they should allow him, they will transfer him to a place recognized by law where he's supposed to be for inquiry, pending when application for his bail is considered. So, because we are being restricted from seeing him in the DSS facility. That was why we filed that application. And also, let me correct this impression. That application hasn't been had. Ordinarily, it's application grantable as a matter of course. So I just mentioned it to the court because it was filed on 14th of July and served on the prosecution of the federal government on same day. So, and they filed a counter affidavit to this application on the 16th, 48 hours after receiving our being served with application. And they withheld it for the reasons best known to them. They didn't serve us the counter affidavit. Until on 26th morning, in court, they ambushed us with the counter. So I only mentioned to the court that look at what transpired because they raised issues in their counter affidavit which you need to address by way of further affidavit. So to ensure that the court hear it on the merit. So, but I mainly brought to the attention of the court, my lord, that application to be for my client to be transferred to prison is grantable as a matter of course. It didn't need a formal application to that effect. But because of the nature of this case, we have to go by a way of formal application, wherein we have to bring in laws, bring in the laws and facts that would necessitate the consideration of the application on the merit and possible granting of the application. So it was adjourned for consideration to this adjourned date. Of course, here where the court asks either the prosecution or we, the first counsel, to come up with an application for fiat to enable him entertain the case during vacation. So that is the position. We are not comfortable with him being detained in DSS custody while the trial commences, and I will object to it and I will oppose it because that is not a place will be. You may be surprised to hear that during the last visit, one of my colleagues during our last visitation to him, one of my colleagues was harassed by DSS. And they will call you to come to that place. Because when you apply to see him, they will give you a convenient time convenient to them, not convenient to us. They may ask you to come 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, or come on Saturdays. So I don't think we're going to work with that kind of guideline. And if you go there by 6 o'clock in the evening or 7 in the evening, you end up leaving the premises around 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock under intimidation. So, and one of my colleagues was harassed. I don't want to make it public, but I'm saying it. So we cannot effectively defend him while in DSS custody. So we are going to oppose it. He must be transferred to prison custody. So we are going to address it in the fullness of time, because we are going to file a further affidavit to that effect and get it argued on the merit on a no date. So thank you.
All right. So I'd like to ask, you say you've not been getting access as you should get. When last did you see Nnamdi Kanu? Number one, what was his state when you saw him? Two, I also like to ask you, have you been able to now go one step further? Because there was this clause about the judge not being a vacation judge, to file that fiat. And thirdly, there were some IPOB members arrested, that day on the 26th that he was supposed to be in court. And I remember, I think it's our political editor, our chief political editor, Sumna Sambo, that was telling you while you were granting the press audience that day that some members were arrested and you didn't even know about it. What's the state with those people? What's going on? Have you been able to intervene in their case, and what were they arrested for?
Well, some of them, after my interview and also possible appeal to the security agents, some were released. So we have a minimum number of them still in detention. Now we're following up. I've already made a contact with CP, FCT to ensure they are giving they are released unconditionally. And we are going there this morning to follow it up. So, of course, the way and manner they behaves. These people, court is a public place, accessible to the public. And they never conducted themselves in a manner that suggests they are violent. They were just there to observe the proceedings of the court. But what happened before the court is a matter of serious concern to the public and to the world. You see this as if there's a war going on, battle going on, shooting all over the places, intimidating people. So obviously, if that kind of atmosphere continue to be witnessed in any time the matter is adjourned for hearing, that means there will be no fair trial. Because the same federal government prosecuting Nnamdi Kanu is also chasing fly away from the court from observing the proceedings of the court. Why we are restrained from coming to the court? So it's a matter of serious concern, and we are taking steps because as I speak to you, international community is following up. They are watching on what's playing out in court. I don't want to mention them, but it's a matter international community is following up. The American government also has, they are following up. I don't want to mention the foreign government who are interested in the matter, but I can assure you that the foreign government is following up, and we are briefing them daily on what's transpiring in court. So it's no longer business as usual, where people's rights will be grossly violated and they will go unchecked. So we are taking steps to ensure that we will keep the world abreast of what is playing out there. Coming to the issue of people arrested, I was also informed yesterday that people who came for the trial, who came to witness the trial, also we are arrested in Kogi, Lokoja, so by military, and they're being detained today. About 30 of them, they were arrested yesterday and still being detained as I speak to you at this moment. So we are still also following up on that, and I'm appealing to the security agency to prevail on the chief army staff to direct his people to release my people who were in court on that day, people who merely came to observe the proceedings and cheer out their leader. So they should release them because they didn't come to cause any form of havoc or violence during the proceedings. They were arrested yesterday on our way going back to the east at Lokoja, and are still being detained. media, and also I watch you. We follow you on social media. I also watch your programs most likely every morning, and I've heard you severally mention about Nnamdi Kanu arrest in Kenya. So, and it's important at this function. I find it a convenient forum to correct that narrative. And also, I believe this my position will influence yours too. I want to understand the fact that Nnamdi Kanu was never arrested in Kenya. So, what took place in Kenya was a clear case of abduction and kidnapping. So, I want you to let the world understand this part. He was not arrested. So, the issue of arrest never come to play. So, because if you compare what's happened to Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya and what is playing out today in Benin Republic, you see that Igboho was arrested and taken to custody where he's being subjected to trial. But Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped at Nairobi airport, taken to a place, not even a police facility. Also, you may be surprised to hear this morning that upon his abduction, within 24 hours of the abduction, people who are familiar, who are his friends, start looking for him. And they visited all the police facility in Nairobi in search of him. He was not seen anywhere. So, and he was detained in that private residence for 8 days. So that is a clear case of kidnapping. So after 8 days, he was now handed over to the Nigerian security agents who smuggled him here by extraordinary rendition. So what happened in Kenya is a clear case of rendition operation against Nnamdi Kanu, which is a gross violation of international law, which Nigeria and Kenya are all signatories to the treaty. I mean, the Geneva Convention protocols, and also protocol against torture of persons. So, which we have already invited the international community, International Court of Justice, to investigate what transpired in Kenya. So, I don't want to go into the merit of that, but let me just correct that impression. So, the issue of arrest does not even come in the first place. So, I want to correct you to stop telling people that Nnamdi was arrested in Kenya. He was never arrested. He was abducted by rendition oppression. He was never arrested. So, if they have arrested, if he was truly arrested in Kenya, they were subjected him to the proceedings, the surrounding proceedings in Kenya. Then the world would know he was arrested. So what happened to Igboho? Igboho was arrested and it was made known to the public that he was arrested. So he wasn't arrested. So let us correct that impression, because it's giving my people very serious concern each time you mention about arrest. And you can see me using word kidnapping and abduction regularly in my interview. So I'm not mistaken about it. So there's a clear difference between a case of arrest and also a case of abduction. So what happened to my client in Kenya is a clear case of abduction and kidnapping. So I want you to be reflecting it in your subsequent interview, please. Because I heard you yesterday telling the Commissioner that he was arrested in Kenya. No, he was not arrested in Kenya. Thank you so much, Mr.
You must be well advised that I know the difference between arrest and also extraordinary rendition. Those are not issues that can be explained to me. But I know that, you guys have approached the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to specifically accuse the Nigerian government of abduction. Where are we with that?
No, we are waiting for the communication has already been sent to them. We are waiting for further directive from the African Union. And I believe we also filed affidavit of urgency. There's a certain urgent attention to that correspondence. So I believe, and we're checking up. But I believe I should be more at home with the issue of abduction and arrest than you. With all fairness to you, so I believe I should be more at home with that. What arrest amount and what abduction amount.
No,
so
I don't need any education
the word is
on
listening.
the subject. No, I don't need any education.
No, well, I'm a lawyer now. I don't think.
No, don't worry about that.
I'm an expert in this field, Mr. Abati.
Don't worry. You are not in a position to educate me. Adesua, please.
Yes, Mr. Ejiofor, the last time you were on the morning show, you raised concerns over your clients getting fair trial. Can I ask you, do you think that your client is being tried in the court of public opinion? And are you worried that that may affect the outcome or the decision of the courts?
Thank you, thank you, Adesua. I thank you for reminding me this, because the point is that what is playing out today, and this Nigerian government is conversant with that, is we are conducting what they call media trial, and we are good for we are with them in that part. So I don't think we have a problem with that. We are doing what they call media trial. Of course, before the last adjournment, before 26th of July, The world was informed by the Honorable AG that what will be seen in court on 26th of July, we're going to see a case of murder, terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, or whatnot. But I can assure you, I can confirm to you this morning, that on 26th of July 2021, we're in court. There was no new charge introduced to in this case. There was no any form of amendment in this charge. No form of amendment. So we are into what they call trial, media trial. So, and we need to inform the public very well, properly. So there was no amendment to the charge. And you know, in law, you see who assert must prove. It's one thing for you to level allegation against somebody, as frivolous, unfounded, and bogus as they may be. But it's for us to come to the court and establish it. So the fact that you are saying that you are going to see a case of murder, banditry, kidnapping, and all whatnot, and in court we didn't see anything. So even the application will file in time, serve on them on 14th of July. We are not responding, we are not serving on us in good time. Because if they had filed and served that application in good time, we have responded and possibly convinced the court to take the application on that day. So I am not averse to this kind of practice. We are very familiar with it. It's been on since 2015 and we are there for them. So they will first of all try somebody, particularly somebody with somebody who is standing on a political trial or special interest or media and getting convicted. So I can assure you that 60 or 80% of uninformed Nigerians had already believed that Nnamdi Kanu committed a case of murder, a case of kidnapping, a case of torture. When there's no such cases, even in the court, there was no such charge in court. So it is their practice, and we are good with them. We are going to give them, follow the head on that part.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not worried at all. So whatever they're saying, we're going to get it debunked in the public opinion.
Okay, Mr. Jaffa, I mean, you didn't answer my question I asked earlier on. I asked about when last, did you
Sorry, Mr. Rufai.
Did you see Nnamdi Kanu? Because you said you've not been getting access to him. What was his state? I also asked you, I also have more questions. We'll come back after the break. We'll talk some more. All right, welcome back. So we still have a counsel to Nnamdi Kanu, Ifeanyi here. Ifeanyi, I was asking before two things real quickly because of time. Number one, the state of Nnamdi Kanu the last time you saw him. What's his health like? Secondly, Katrina Lang, British High Commissioner, yesterday said Britain will provide consular services. What's the talk about that? Have you spoken to the British as regards this? Let's talk quickly. Ifeanyi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rufai. I'll be very quick about my response on this. So, on record, and also on record of DSS, we visited Nnamdi Kanu last on 17th of July, 2021. That was on a Saturday. The Saturday, they asked us to come around 6 p.m. and around 4 p.m. And we were there till about 10 to 10 o'clock in the night. That was then the concluded interview with him. So that was last time we saw him. And at the time we saw him, he was still wriggling in pains of grievous injuries he sustained on account of the torture meted out to him during his detention in Kenya. And secondly, the burden of solitary confinement. Because when somebody is kept in a confinement where he has access to his relatives, friends, and well-wishers, where he cannot communicate with anybody, you know the burdensome, you know how it is for somebody to be kept in such an environment, and he's not giving much attention. So, and last week we made serious effort to see him and also get him prepared for the trial that's supposed to commence on Monday this week. So on 19th, we made a contact with the DSS department who are corresponding with us in this case. They refused to give us attention. 20th, something happened. 21st, something happened. 22nd, 23rd, 24th, we didn't see him. So, and we have to cry to the court and inform the court about the position of the DSS, that they refuse access to him. So that is the position as it stands now. But let me hope and believe God that the other court just made on 26th of July that DSS will obey it. Then secondly, I can confirm to you this morning that British High Commission or British government is not doing much about this case. I can confirm also to you that there's every likelihood of connivance in what happened in the fate of my client on the part of the British government. Because sometime in 2015, Nnamdi Kanu was arrested in Lagos, a British national. I know what happened. I know therefore they met. I know how they were keeping in constant communication with me, how they were visiting him both in SSS, where he was initially detained, before taken to prison. They were there severally. Every 2 days they used to visit him in prison, in DSS facility, when he was being kept detained there. And when he was transferred to prison, They were going visiting him regularly. At times, they will make sure they will call to confirm from me about his medical condition, whether they were still with medical expert. These are things they did in 2015, 16, 17 before he was granted bail. But today, as at yesterday was 27th of July, 2021. A British national was arrested on 19th, was abducted on 19th of June, 2021, smuggled into Nigeria thereafter, and was taken to court on 29th. And these things happened to the knowledge of British government. And apart from that, will not formally notify them about what's happening to his national. Because at the time Nnamdi Kanu was arrested in Kenya, he was arrested as a British national. He has already announced his Nigerian citizenship for 5 years or 6 years before now. So, and they are, yes, and yesterday being 27, the British High Commission is talking about offering consular services to Mr. Kanu. I wish I had opportunity of talking to him. I was asking the High Commissioner, why haven't you seen him since that time? Have they seen him? This is a pertinent question to ask them. They've not set their eyes on Nnamdi Kanu, talk less of offering any form of service to them. Today, I can confirm that to you. So, and you can ask, at least Mr. Bati will observe from the question, the manner he answered this question, that they are talking about that Nnamdi Kanu is not a serious issue they're discussing now in the educational summit going on in UK. That I have other serious issues they're discussing. So he just responded to you by way of passing. It's not a matter that taking serious as you may be expecting. But what I believe, and which we are activating now, is that they obviously need a force of law to assert the obligation to the international. Well, and we are doing that with our partners in UK are doing that.
We're running out of time. We have just about a minute to go, but very quickly. One, I would like to ask you, how helpful do you think the protests in parts of the Southeast are to the Nnamdi Kanu case? Because yesterday we were told there were protests, particularly in Onitsha. And then secondly, I mean, the issue about, our lordship saying, look, she will not grant the transfer of, the accused person from DSS custody to Kuje prison. What do you think of that, considering the fact that the ESN and IPOB have been accused in the Southeast of, freeing persons who were remanded in prison custody in the East? Whether that is true or not is for you to determine. And previously, also, your client jumped bail. Do you think that the court of Justice Binta Nyako, considered all of this to take that decision? He's saying he's better off in DSS custody. Very quickly.
Thank you so much. Mr. Bati, in the first place, you have been misinformed. The court never entertained my application to get him transferred to prison. The court said he will hear the application and next adjourn date. But when I orally applied for him to be transferred to prison, the court said he will not grant it now. And I informed the court that we'll have an application formally before the court to get him transferred to prison. And that application will be entertained on the merit and next adjourn date. That hasn't been had. So coming to freeing person from prisons and in the Southeast, I don't think I'll say much to that effect, because the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, in several forums, has told the world that those who tampered with the prison facility in Imo State and police headquarters are not IPOB members. It's on record. You must have it with you. So, and that has to a reasonable extent vindicated on every allegations against them to that effect. He's told the world that those who were involved in that act were neither IPOB member, not ESN, or people associated with IPOB. I'm talking about the Chief Security Officer of the Imo State. He said it. So who am I to say the contrary or arrive at the contrary? So the court didn't say he will not grant the transfer. The application will be had on the merit. IPOB and also it's a mere speculation over the media about the safety, his safety in prison. Let me say this to you. When Nnamdi Kanu was detained in 2015 in Kuje prison, you must have heard about prison break during that period. There was an attempt at prison break, but Nnamdi Kanu stood still at where he was being kept. And there was issue. He never bothered, and it was an attempt by Boko Haram then to invade the prison. to break the prison. It's on record. He was there. He was in his cell, comfortably, never made any effort to go. So make inquiry from prison authority. They will tell you that Nnamdi Kanu is a fine gentleman. He's a non-violent person. So that should be a facility where you keep. It's a person that have respect for rule of law and others. So it can never, not of such will happen. And that's why we're insisting that application should be heard on the merits by court. And delivered only one way or the other. Because we have facts with us. We have his antecedents when he was detained in prison in 2015. And I can assure you that the court will be convinced to grant that application. And also, I remember last time you asked me about the superiority of Nigerian British passport and the British passport. I believe the present situation must have answered that question to you. Only a few days ago, President Buhari traveled to UK for medical tourism. So if Nigeria is working well, why is he going to UK? So I believe that question has been answered. I believe I'm not missing any of your question again.
Well, Counsel, thank you very much. But I would like you to go with this. We're completely neutral in this matter. We're not taking sides. We're a media house. And that's why again and again we invite you so that you can give our viewers, the benefit of what you know.